Hi, this is Ivan, and you are listening to Ivancast podcast. Welcome to another episode of my music discovery podcast series. Today, I have a very special guest from Denmark, the one and only, the wonderful Astrid Engberg. Ladies and gentlemen, I really enjoyed talking to her, so I hope you enjoyed also these conversation. But before that, I just wanted to let you know that a new book has been published this week about Charles Darwin. The name of the book is The Ghost in the Garden, and it's all about his relationship with his childhood garden that apparently was his source of inspiration for his love of nature, and later, of course, the development of his theory of evolution. So go and check it out. I'm gonna read it for sure. And I have a daughter, and she loves nature, and she loves her big garden here, the Amazon rainforest. Now, enjoy the podcast. Yeah, my conversation this week is with singer, songwriter, producer, and DJ Astrid Engberg from Denmark. Welcome to the podcast, Astrid.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's been such an incredible experience, talking to artists from all over the world. And it's
Yeah,
nice to have this connection now with Denmark. I am in Ecuador in the rainforest, and
I know this.
it's a rainy day today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because in Copenhagen, it's been really sunny,
Oh,
and it's like the first sensation of like real
oh,
spring.
cool.
People are very
Spring
excited.
is coming,
But I
right?
love that you are in Ecuador, and it's
Yeah.
like we can meet.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Podcasting and technology allow us these days
That's
to
amazing.
do so many things right.
Yeah,
Especially in this day and age, with the pandemic and stuff. Like,
true. How is everything in Ecuador? How are you? How is?
yeah. Well, I mean, we are again under
Hmm.
lockdown.
Okay,
There
good.
was an increase in the number of cases, so we are pretty much the whole country is in a state of emergency again. So terrible situation, actually.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
and let's see what happens. I mean, in the situation in
Mm,
Brazil right now, it's pretty
yeah,
terrible.
really
There's a
intense.
there is an explosion again of COVID cases.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's horrible. Mm. We
Yes.
have to send a lot of light and really hope
Yeah.
that it's
What's
gonna
going on in
change.
Denmark? Are you still in quarantine?
In Denmark, they're slowly opening up a little bit,
Hmm.
but I mean, I feel we've been quite lucky. So even though we take
Yeah.
all the precautions and we've had lockdowns,
Yeah.
it's not the massive pressure on the hospitals and stuff.
Hmm.
Maybe I don't know if we are like more distant people. We don't have a lot of social contact. Maybe I don't know,
Yeah.
but I mean, both my parents had it like a year ago
Oh.
in the very
Uh huh.
beginning,
Okay.
and my dad was really sick.
Oh.
But so I have a lot of respect for this disease, but at the same time, yeah, I think it's the same as everywhere. We just try
Absolutely.
to stay positive
Are
and
you?
enjoy the little things.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you still waiting to get vaccinated, or did you already get your?
Yeah, I they started vaccinating like elderly people,
Hmm.
so I think we have to wait a little bit, maybe in July or something. I don't
Cool.
know. How about you guys? Where are you in this?
I'm also on the waiting list. It's
Yeah, yeah,
gonna
yeah,
take a while, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely. So,
Good thing we have music, we have art, we
yeah,
have you
absolutely,
know.
absolutely. So your debut album was released last
Yeah,
year, right? Tulpa
yeah,
in
yeah,
September
exactly.
last year, and it's a wonderful, fantastic record. I love it. And
Thank you.
where do you draw your inspiration from to make this music?
Mm.
Because it's a mix of different genres too, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, I do think I get my inspiration in my everyday life. So,
Yeah.
like in the things I experience, the people I meet, it can be like random people
Yeah.
having a conversation with somebody, in the line at the supermarket or
Hmm.
in the street, or and also traveling the places I've lived.
Yeah.
You'll go somewhere and you'll meet someone who introduce you to a new instrument you never heard before,
Yeah.
and this sound will kind of stay with you in your cells or in your mind or in your heart, whatever. And and I don't know, but somehow it just, I think I'm not always aware of it, but it just unfolds in the music, and it becomes this mix of a lot of different things. And to me, it's this is fun and interesting because it's like I don't try to explain what it is.
Yeah.
I just kind of try to not stop myself from making this mix, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Now, I read that you also went through some physical pain, right, in the past
Yeah.
due to a
Yeah.
head
So
injury, right? Would
yeah.
you say, uh, is that experience, can we hear that in your music too?
Mm, I mean, I'm sure that we can hear all the big experiences
Yeah.
in the life, of the
Uh-huh.
people who create music, because it's like stuck in the body. And this experience was very dramatic to me. I
Yeah.
had an accident where I fell on my bicycle. I was driving really fast, and
Okay. It was a
and it had been frost in the night, and so I was like, I hit my head on a bridge
oh.
and had a bad concussion.
Hmm.
And it was like for a couple of years I was basically in my bed and couldn't leave my flat and stuff.
Hmm.
And for a long, like 7 years after this, I had a lot of pain. And I think something happens to human beings, not just me, but everybody who experience, like, especially head trauma,
Yeah.
because you're like, it changes your idea. So much happens in the head that we don't know, your movements and
Hmm.
your memory and all of this. But people who live with physical pain, or at least for me, it was like, wow. It's like, it affects everything.
Sure.
When you're in pain, the only thing you want is for the pain to stop.
Absolutely.
So when you have to learn to live with this pain, it puts everything into perspective.
Yeah.
And also, luckily for me, in a great way, where it's like you really realize how amazing a machine the body is. How much it does for us every day.
Yeah.
I mean, just to walk is like a crazy, how can we say, like, collaboration of muscles and synapses and all of this. And so I think, to answer your question, maybe there will be, like, on the album, I think definitely there's a sense of some pain and sorrow, but there's also hopefully a sense of a joy
Yeah.
of what I now know I have, you know,
Yeah.
that I
Absolutely.
really want to share with people, and I hope
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
will see in their own life as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. That's true. Sure. I mean, those life changing experiences, right? Those,
Exactly.
they can also, they can also bring wonderful things, right? Within,
Yeah.
even though you might be still in pain. This happened 7 years ago, right?
No, this is like now 14 years ago.
14 years ago.
So
Hmm.
yeah, so it's like a long time, and my life is like, I feel it's my third life. It was like the life before the accident, and then the life where it was really hard and really a struggle, and I didn't know whether I could actually succeed to kind of live through this.
Yeah.
And then the life where, okay, I have some pain, I have some struggle, but I have so much to be thankful for, and I've come so far, and I have so many people who help me and support me, and I have, I think, a new joy
Yeah.
in life that
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
very
I
thankful
mean,
about.
and we can hear that in your album, right?
Okay,
Music,
nice.
music,
That makes
music
me
is
happy. Yeah,
medicine, right? Too.
yeah,
So
definitely.
it's a wonderful
Mm,
thing. And how did you get
mm.
involved in making music? Was something that you always knew you wanted to do the rest of your life, or?
So that's also a good question, because I can say yes and no.
Uh-huh.
Like, since I was a child, I always found great joy in music.
Yeah.
But I am also, and especially when I was younger, like a quite shy
Hmm.
person. So when I was a kid, I would never ever say, like, when I'm a grown up, I will be a singer or
Yeah.
musician,
Okay.
because I would never, like, dare to think that this was possible.
Hmm.
But I think my way into the music was there was also always like classical music where I grew up,
Mhm.
but only classical music.
Mhm.
And so I started to go to the library and find all these CDs and cassettes with like jazz and soul music,
Mhm.
and it was like a revelation. It was
Yeah.
like the sensation, where it was like, wow, there's a whole different
Yeah.
world I didn't know about.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
that
I
feeling?
felt the same way when I discovered African American music for sure, and I felt
Yeah,
in love. It's my kind of
exactly.
music. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And it
And
happened
that's
to be in
amazing.
Germany, which is which
Oh,
is
really?
which is great. Yeah, 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 yeah. The drummer,
And how? Like through friends
yeah,
or?
yeah, the drummer of my band. I made music when I was there. I had
Ah,
quite
cool.
a tiny musical career when I lived there, and
Yeah, yeah.
the drummer and I we were definitely music nerds, and we would
Yeah.
spend you know months digging the crates, and searching for
Nice.
nice records and stuff. Also on the internet at
What
that
do you
time.
play? What
I
instrument?
am a bassist. I play bass guitar. Yeah,
Ah, dope.
yeah, yeah.
Bass was one of my first instruments, actually.
Yeah. What
I wish I had
did
continued,
you
but
start playing bass from there?
I played like a lot of
Uh
instruments.
huh.
Like in my, after school, you go to, I don't, it was like a club, I was like 11, I
Uh
think.
huh.
And I started playing the bass in this little band.
Uh huh.
And at the same time, I was playing violin and flute and singing in a choir and just like testing out like some piano, a lot of
Cool.
different instruments.
Cool.
Because in the music schools in Denmark, you can get to learn these instruments,
Yeah.
and it's not too expensive. It's like supposed to be something that parents can afford,
Yeah.
so that's really nice.
Mhm.
And it kind of gave me a foundation of just like, I was never a virtuoso,
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
any of these
Mhm.
instruments, but it built kind of an understanding of musical systems and sound, and the difference sound or the different sounds,
Mhm.
and I think it's something that has stuck more with me than I actually realized for many years.
Mhm. And,
But how did you start playing the bass, if I can
I
ask?
yeah, yeah, sure. I started playing when I was 14, I guess, and it was
Uh
just
huh.
a school band kind of thing.
Nice.
My friends were they were forming a band, and there no
They
no
needed a
nobody
bass
wanted to
player.
play the bass guitar, so I thought, okay, I
What?
will get a bass guitar. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's like the dopest
yeah,
instrument.
yeah.
I mean, I love
It
the
was
drums and bass.
yeah,
That's like, wow.
yeah, yeah. So it was kind of a coincidence, but at the same time, it was very cool.
Yeah,
From that moment on, I never stopped playing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
basically,
cool.
yeah, sure. And what kind of music I mean, how can we imagine Scandinavian or Denmark in this case music? Do you have like folk music or any native instruments? Because I don't know nothing
I mean,
about this, for example, so to say,
no, I
Scandinavian
mean,
native folk music or something.
there definitely is a lot of folk
Yeah,
music in Denmark and Sweden and Faroe Islands,
yeah,
um, and and it's beautiful music. It's
yeah.
not music that I have like gone too deep into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My boyfriend is much more kind of has a background
Oh,
in
okay.
some of this music,
Mm-hmm.
so he's kind of introduced me to some of it. But I think for me, it's more like I mean, some of the classical composers, which is like Carl Nielsen, for example, who's a
Yeah.
Danish composer. He has like some beautiful melodies
Mm-hmm.
that for me sound very like Nordic and very Danish to me.
Yeah.
Like when I listen to music from Finland,
Yeah.
there's something in there. I mean, when I say classical music, it's also in the songs, we sing at funerals or weddings and all this. It's also in choir music.
Yeah.
There's like some of the melodies are so like from Finland, I can like feel the woods,
Yeah.
I can,
Yeah.
and
Wood.
this is yeah,
Yeah.
like woods and the sea for me, like
Yeah.
I have a really great friend in Paris where I used to live, and
Mm-hmm.
she came to Denmark a couple of times, and she always says like Denmark is the blue country,
Yeah.
because like we have a lot of water and the sky is blue, and I didn't think about it before, but like in the summertime, and in the winter as well, it's something about it doesn't get dark like from one second to the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a long phase of like blueness. And I feel it, we hear it in the music too. I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
maybe a little bit abstract,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of this blue.
Sure. Sure. And tulpa, the name. I was also
Mm,
wondering what does it mean? Is there a meaning?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Sounds
so
like a flower or something to me.
that would be
Yeah.
beautiful. But so the tulpa is actually
Is it a
an
Danish word?
interesting.
No.
No, it's a. I think it actually comes from Tibet originally,
Ah, okay.
but it's a phenomenon that's described by people where you can kind of manifest uh, a being that's kind of like a copy of yourself. I mean,
Uh-huh.
actually, a physical being that's a copy of yourself,
Okay.
an entity, we can say. But the thing is that this being can kind of set itself loose from the host
Yeah.
and have a will of its own. So you have might have created it with your mind,
Uh-huh.
but at some point this being can say, okay, now I want to live my life on my own. I'm going to leave this host who created me.
Uh-huh.
And it can act both in good and bad ways. And in many levels, like when I came across this idea of the tulpa,
Mhm.
I was like, wow, this is super interesting
Yeah.
for me in a personal sense, that I really had to reinvent myself and my life
Mhm.
because everything fell apart in my accident, and my identity
Yeah.
and whatever was taken away.
Mhm. Mhm.
So in a way, by manifesting that, okay, I'm going to have a good life, I'm going to, be better, I feel that I created this new person or
Mhm.
whatever.
Did you
But in a different,
did you lose your
no.
memory from that accident?
I mean, I didn't lose it, but I had, especially in the first 2 years, quite a few incidents where I would leave my house and I didn't know
Mhm.
how
Mhm.
to find my home again,
Wow.
and
Okay.
or I could like get out of the metro and I couldn't find the
Mhm.
road to my flat
And
that I had taken. Yeah.
okay. And language wise, were you able to speak
Language
normally?
wise was
Yeah.
cool.
Was there?
Like I never had a problem with language,
Mhm.
but there was like I mean, reading was very difficult because of like eye situations,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then I could sit by the piano and it was like somebody had given me a book in Arabic. It was like I could look, at the piano,
Yeah.
and normally I would know, okay, so C, D, E, F, G, A, okay, I can play
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But it was like my brain couldn't understand, like, what is this system? And this
Wow.
was really scary
Yeah.
because it's like,
It's like a
it's like
baby
you
almost,
feel
no? Starting
something
from
is, yeah,
scratch. Yeah.
exactly what the neurologist said.
Mhm.
They said, you have to see yourself as like, kind of like a
Like a
baby
baby.
that starts from scratch,
Yeah.
but you have to actively learn these things.
Uh-huh.
But just to finish the tulpa, there's a thing I think is interesting, and that's you know we live in this world of social media,
Yeah.
and it can be great because I can connect with you in Ecuador. We can have a nice
Yeah.
conversation. We
Sure.
can, for a moment, be in Ecuador with you.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
beautiful. But we also live in a time where it's like Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
and people create, we all create, these kind of versions of
Mhm.
ourselves.
Mhm.
And the intention might be good. And for some people it work. But for other people, it becomes like, the idea, the Instagram takes over,
Yeah.
and people are miserable
Yeah.
because they think they have to be a certain way and all of this. And
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think it's like the tulpa, you create something, and all of a sudden
Okay.
the what you created
So it's
has a life of its own,
kind of an avatar, your digital self or
Ye-
something like that.
yeah, I mean, that could be also a picture of the tulpa to me.
Yeah.
Like, we have to be so conscious on where we put our energy, and what we send out,
Mhm. Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
because I feel it can really go like slowly without noticing. It can drain a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying, right? Especially for I don't know how old are you, but
I was like, I don't even know myself. I'm 35.
uh, okay,
How old are
so
you then?
I'm 36. So you know how
Yeah,
was life before the internet,
yeah,
right? You have a clear
yeah,
vision of that.
definitely,
And what I think is
definitely.
the newer generations, they don't know that. They
Yeah,
grew up with a cell phone and internet and
yeah,
Instagram on their hands. So that makes the whole
that's really
difference. I think,
special. Yeah,
it's really
but
interesting.
I mean,
And sometimes
they
I
might.
miss the 90s. Even though I'm a
Yeah,
techie guy, I love technology and stuff.
yeah,
But sometimes I think, man, I mean, I wish I could leave my house and
yeah.
nobody could reach me
I
for a couple
totally
of hours.
agree. Yeah, but we have to just kind of do that. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes I leave my phone at home, and I'm like,
yeah,
this is wonderful.
yeah,
But
sure.
but I don't know. Maybe the next generation or the next generations are better.
Yeah,
I
I
hope they are
hope.
better
Yeah, I
at
mean,
like dealing with this, because
yeah,
totally agree with you. It's
yeah, yeah,
crazy. I mean, I remember the first time I saw my teacher
yeah,
having a cell phone, and it was huge, and she had to like pull out
yeah,
this antenna,
yeah,
and we were all like, wow, I feel the phone was like as large as her head, and it's just it seems so long
yeah,
ago.
yeah. The thing is, everything happens so fast. Just, I mean,
Yeah,
if you think about 10 years ago, if you would
yeah,
say somebody, I'm doing the videos on YouTube or podcasts, I want
mm,
to monetize that, and you want to be my advertisers, they would say, well, what do you mean the internet, right? It was
yeah,
more like a joke,
yeah.
but now it's just
Yeah, yeah.
kids uploading videos on YouTube and stuff, but now it's like, it's a whole
It's
business,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the really sad things,
yeah,
how it's like always,
yeah, yeah,
it often turns into a business of like capitalizing
yeah,
everything. And it's sad because there's so much beauty in the internet and in the possibility for
yeah,
people to express
yeah,
themselves. And
yeah, yeah. So what I
but
think is especially for the newer generations, they kind of need to understand all of this stuff, so in
yeah,
order that they also take care of themselves. And you know
yeah,
I was talking to also on my podcast to I don't who was this conversation with, Derek Bostrom, I guess. He was also
hmm,
like really into internet and stuff, and we both said, okay, so probably in 20 years from now, a lot of young people are going to have a lot of regrets, for what they uploaded
yeah,
on the internet
yeah,
these days.
yeah. I think so.
Yeah,
And I think so they are going to be really pissed with their parents who
yeah.
uploaded like a lot of baby photos,
Oh
and
yes,
they'll be like,
absolutely.
what are you doing, you
Absolutely.
know
Yeah, yeah. I have a daughter,
I
she's
mean,
2.5 now, almost
yeah.
3 years old.
Ah,
And there is
congrats.
no, I think there's just one photo on the internet for my
Yeah,
daughter.
I think that's really nice of you.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, especially where it's like, well, I mean, I know that parents are just proud, but
yeah,
at the same time, I'm really thankful that,
yeah,
I mean, maybe it's also I think it's very individual, but I see myself as an open person
yeah.
and an extrovert person, but at the same time also an introvert person and a very private
Mm-hmm,
person.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
sure.
there are many things that, especially things that I love and cherish, that I kind of like to just have for myself. If I have a wonderful evening with somebody I love, whether it's a friend or it's my boyfriend or whatever,
Mm,
I don't want to take pictures in the middle of everything. I
sure.
just want to be there, and,
Absolutely.
and exist.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a new time we're living.
sure. And you are also a DJ and a
Yeah,
record collector. And I was actually listening. You have a show, right? Is it a weekly
yeah.
show or a monthly show? On
No, it's a monthly show.
monthly
Now I
show.
have on the British Bellamy.
Nice.
And before that, I had on MMH Radio, which was a Danish community
Uh
radio.
huh.
That was really nice.
And you have a monthly show
Um,
where you play some of your music, right? Your
yeah,
mixes. Awesome.
I just play like records that I like, and I love that you have the freedom to just share
Yeah.
whatever weird music you like.
Yeah, and you
Um,
have a lot of rare stuff there, no? Because I was listening to your mix from March
hmm.
on
Oh,
what's on
nice.
Mixcloud, right? It's on Mixcloud.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on Mixcloud.
yeah.
Yeah,
And there was
yeah,
a
but
lot of
I'm
stuff that I have never heard in my life.
nice.
So
Ah,
it
that
was
makes me
so nice. Yeah,
happy.
yeah, sure, absolutely.
But I mean, like you said you were a geek.
Uh,
So I mean,
kind
that
of,
makes
but
two of us.
yeah. Uh, so tell us a little bit about your passion for records. Was it also
Um,
because you have also kind of your roots are also in hip hop, right? Yeah, I
yeah, I
love
mean,
hip
I
hop.
did like,
Yeah, it's
yeah, I worked with a lot of beat makers,
yeah,
especially in France
cool.
and also in Denmark.
Yeah.
But I think the love for vinyl is like goes way back. I mean, way, way, way back
Okay.
to, again, like growing up in a house with only classical music.
Classical
And
music.
then one day I was like, what? I was looking through the records my dad had,
Mm-hmm.
and I found three records that was my mom's. And I was like, what is this? And I remember I sat in front of the turntable and I put them on, and one was Billie Holiday, one was Louis Armstrong,
Oh,
and one was Dave Brubeck.
oh, Louis
And Dave
Armstrong.
Brubeck is maybe not my
Hmm.
favorite now, but back then it was like, I mean, imagine you hear Billie Holiday
Yeah.
singing for the
I
first
mean,
time. You
Louis
never
Armstrong.
heard,
You know, that's just
yeah,
is another.
swinging,
It's from another
amazing, and
dimension, right? I think.
yeah. And I just remember I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and I could just sit and watch, the record like turning and turning and turning, and
Okay.
this
Cool.
wonderful music came out. And then I just kind of started collecting records like a little bit when I was maybe 15 or something.
Hmm.
And then the last 15 years, it's really, I think it's like really just a way I love to be in the world. I love to go into a record store and just browse,
Yeah.
see what I
It's
can
nice.
find, listen, talk a little bit to the people, maybe buy something,
Yeah.
go home.
Yeah.
It's like there's a slowness, and there's a kind of like the sensation I had at the library or you had in Berlin. The kind of like, whoa, there's a world that I didn't know about. And you can see just an album cover when you're at the record store and you're like, what is this? Let me check it out.
Mhm.
And then it's like, what? What? This is the craziest shit I ever heard.
Yeah.
I love that sensation.
Cool. Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. I
I don't know, how is it in Ecuador? Can you find
No,
like
not
vinyl
really.
or,
I mean, there are a couple of stores, but
yeah,
not really that
not so
much.
much.
No, not so much. They
No.
are also very expensive here. Everything
Yeah,
is
I can
expensive here,
imagine.
so
Is it really?
yeah.
I
So
mean,
things like imported stuff is always very,
of
very
course.
expensive.
Yeah.
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 Hmm. So let's
Mm.
talk about instrumentation for a moment, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What's like your gear? Do you have a pedal board? What instrumentation do you use to create your sounds in Tulpa, for example? No? I can
Yeah.
hear a tuba even in one of the songs, right?
Yeah.
And I love
Like
it. I
in
love the tuba.
actually, yeah, me
Yeah,
too. That's like the essence of the album
yeah.
almost. I mean, I love the
It's
tuba.
like the base of the
Um,
classical instruments,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a guy called Anders Bo Eriksen who plays the tuba,
Uh-huh.
and he's amazing when he plays live. He's like he's so full of life, and he's like dancing, when he's playing,
Cool.
and he's just, for me, he brings a really good energy
Yeah.
to the stage.
Okay.
But
Mhm.
so like I work in Ableton Live,
Yeah.
and then I have like a lot of analog gear, like pedals and
Yeah.
like Helicon pedals and Space Echo and different things.
Hmm.
And then I mean, then I play different things. I play like the piano,
Yeah.
Nord Electro,
Nord
but I
Electro.
also have a pian. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but I also have a pianist who is playing on the album. So it's like a mix.
Uh-huh.
Like I play the more simple things, and he's like more virtuoso in what he does, and I love his style. And then there's like a lot of percussion that I play that I've collected from my travels
Hmm. Hmm.
over the world. And there's the tuba, of course.
Hmm.
And then I love to, especially on tuba, I love to write for horns and strings. And that was like a new thing. I think that I took more time to work on the arrangements, and because I also have the SP404, which is like a sampler
The
that I,
SP404, no? Yeah.
yeah, it's a Roland
It's
sampler.
a sampler, yeah.
Yeah, but so that's like part of the ground track. But then when I compose for horns and strings, it's great to. I mean, I invited some amazing musicians to the studio, and it's just great to have it played live by real instruments. I can
Sure.
play some flute myself, or but I thought about, okay, I can also just produce.
Hmm.
Um, just in quotations, because I mean, I don't want to judge, but for me it's a different thing. I could just record the horns or use a plugin and have the sound of the horns, and that does sound great. But something happens when we record organic instruments. There's like a different timbre.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Can you say this? Yeah. And there's like also just the energy that is created in the studio when people meet and play together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like a lot of sessions, and then I would sit and produce afterwards as well in live,
Yeah.
and kind of built a lot of layers, and cut and move and
Nice,
compress and
nice, nice.
yeah, until
Yeah,
I felt there was a balance in
cool,
like space and
cool.
music.
And how did you learn all that? Like, for example, how to work with Ableton Live or the SP404? Was it just video tutorials, or did you went to college or something like
um
that?
No, I think it's like really a lot of just trial and error.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not even great at watching video tutorials. I
just
do it a little bit,
yeah,
but I think I'm more like, okay, if I know I want to do something, and I sometimes it's just like I find a machine,
yeah.
and I'm like, the machine speaks to me somehow, and I don't know why.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
cool.
so I test it out, and a lot of the machines I use in a weird way, in a different way.
Yeah,
But it's like maybe that's also part of what is
what you do?
creating my sound. I don't know.
That's cool. That's
But
cool.
it's like I like to explore
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah, yeah. Cool.
So, but I feel a lot of my life has been like a big accident, but at the same time combined with a
Mhm.
lot of curiosity,
Yeah,
and a
curiosity.
lot of like, I mean, I've spent hours and hours and hours of like just sitting, trying things, and some
Yeah.
of it works and some of it doesn't work. And then maybe 5 years later, you're like, whoa, but this thing that I'm doing now, I see the direct connection to the track I did 5 years ago that never came out, you know.
Okay.
It's like it's really inspired, or it's like a circle,
It makes sense after a while. Then.
It makes sense after a while. That
Yeah.
might be it. Yeah. Yeah,
So
that
maybe
might be
we
it.
can break down one of your songs, Daylight, maybe,
Yeah.
or which one is like
Yeah.
your? Do you have do artists have like a favorite song on each LP or?
I don't know if they do. I
Yeah,
don't know if I do. I think that I don't think I have a favorite. I think I have different kind of little loves for the different
yeah.
songs,
So
or
maybe
you
let's
know.
talk about Daylight, and it will be cool
Yeah.
if you first of all if there's a like a nice story behind the song, and then maybe you can tell us a little bit about the production and creative process.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about the form and the melody, the
So I think
harmony, the chords, the
yeah.
voicing, all the nerdy
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
break it down,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. I
Daylight.
mean, I think daylight is like I remember daylight. I mean, sometimes it's hard to go all the way back to the start, but I
Yeah.
remember that daylight started with the bass in my head.
Okay.
And sometimes it happens that I can't sleep, and then I'll sing basses or whatever on my voice
Oh,
memo,
okay, cool.
And I remember I had that now I don't remember the
Uh-huh.
tuba line,
Okay.
and I was like humming it on my phone, and I was like, this has to be played by a tuba. So this was the groove that kind of led everything,
Oh, okay, cool.
that was like pulling everything.
Okay.
And after the tuba, which I think I recorded on the note, like the bass, or maybe I sang it directly in live. I remember the next step was the note. I wanted like some really dreamy keys,
Uh-huh.
because I had the vocals in my head. I had this like daylight, like a really like, I had an energy of something really light. And I think it was because a lot of, maybe I worked on Phoenix before Daylight. And Phoenix is
Mm-hmm.
like quite a personal, a little bit heavy track about like going through a lot of difficult stuff. And it's like a little bit psychedelic and
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go into this light energy where the only idea of daylight was to say, okay, let's take my hand and let's go out into the daylight.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like saying,
Like
let's forget everything that's difficult and just be
yeah.
in this moment, and together,
Yeah.
and enjoy whatever light there is. And so the keys were really supposed to symbolize this in their lightness.
Mm-hmm.
So I was playing like some layers, a little melody and something underneath. And I think it just slowly kind of unfold. I was like, okay, so this is the A part, and then I want something different where maybe some horns come in, and it was. I feel it was a kind of organic way. It really it unfolded because it wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna write a verse and a chorus. It was more about getting into a groove and then letting this groove unfold. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And then in the end, I would sing the lead on top, and it was like, okay, I'm basically just gonna do the voicings on the chorus, and then just sing. Like I was talking to a friend, like, hey, come on, take my hand, let's go into the daylight. And there was like this little scat solo that happened because I was just in a very like light mood,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, that's nice, okay,
Mm,
let's go with this. And
nice.
it was maybe the most simple track, but it's like, I think it's the most easy track in a way, maybe to listen to. I don't know.
Hmm.
A lot of people seem to say like, "Oh, I like Daylight," and I'm like, "Okay, cool." That was like one of the easier tracks to make.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I can hear through all the album. It's like a cathartic process. Also, no, I think you're
Yeah,
processing a lot of your experiences in every
yeah,
track. The
definitely.
different layers and melodies that we can hear. So
And I mean,
it's wonderful.
sometimes it's also just a reminder to myself. Okay, Astrid, come on, remember, remember the lightness. Or
Absolutely.
it's like, okay, let's remember to talk about what's difficult.
Yeah.
That's okay too. So I think you're right
Yeah, and
in
it's
this
such a
sense.
great album that it has been critically acclaimed, right? I actually discovered
Simply,
you
yeah.
and the album because I'm a big fan of Bandcamp, and
Oh
you were
yeah,
featured, no, one of the best albums
yeah,
of in the summer of 2020, last year.
yeah. I mean, Bandcamp were
Nice.
really nice,
It
and
must be a great feeling when you wake up one day and you see on Bandcamp your album, right?
yeah, it was nice. I mean, it was
Yeah,
also very nice that, like, I think 2 weeks before that, Andrew Jervis, who's like the head of
yeah.
the Bandcamp
You get
Weekly,
like an
he wrote
email or
me,
something
and
like that.
yeah, he
Yeah.
just wrote my label and was like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
you
we
live.
would love to do an interview with Astrid," and he's super
Oh,
nice.
cool.
And
Yeah.
I had actually done an interview with him like 10 years ago, and I had totally forgotten because at
Really?
this point I was like pretty sick.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I didn't remember at all. And he said when I came on the interview, he was like, "But we talked like 10 years ago when Bandcamp Weekly started," and I was like, "Oh my god, yes,
I don't
that's
remember.
crazy."
Yeah,
And so of course it's really nice when people enjoy an
sure.
album, because it's like, it is a strange process to do an album for me. It's like something that, I mean, I can say that I really enjoyed doing this album,
Yeah.
even though it was also a lot of hard work. And it was like, I decided that I only wanted to work with people that I think are just really wonderful people.
Hmm.
I mean, they're great musicians, but they are also just really wonderful people. So the whole process was nice, but it was also horrible, like everything else, because you're like day and night obsessed with these songs and sounds, and just before it came out, I think I was like exhausted.
Yeah,
and
sure. A lot of work.
and maybe also because I'm like a shy person,
Hmm.
it was like, I remember a friend who's also in the music business. She was like, "But Astrid, if you don't want to put it out, we can just stop. You don't have to put it out."
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was like, it. I didn't say that I didn't want to put it out, but I was overwhelmed. I was like, because I think it's normal to be nervous. It's like you are reading your diary to the world. It's like you are going out into the street naked, and everybody's like, "Oh, hey."
Hmm.
And I choose to do it, but at the same time, it can be so nerve wracking.
Sure, absolutely.
And I was like, "No, but let's go. I want to put it out," and I'm happy we did, because
Yeah.
it was like a lot of people are writing nice things
Hmm.
that it helps them
Sure,
or
cool,
inspires or
cool.
whatever.
And I'm sure that you will get discovered also by more audience here in South America, because I have quite a
Amazing.
people here in Ecuador, in Argentina. There are people listening in Chile, in Mexico.
It's
So
amazing.
it's
I
very
mean,
cool.
when did you start this podcast?
Almost 2 years ago.
So
Yeah, it's
cool.
been a really wild and crazy and funny
I can
experience. I
imagine.
talked last week to Cut Chemist, Cut Chemist from
Yeah, I
Jurassic
saw
Park.
that. That's amazing.
That's definitely one of the
I mean,
highlights.
how did that
I
happen?
mean, it just happened. I was very nervous as also,
I
but
can
it was a
imagine.
really cool conversation. Cut is just such a
I'm
great
gonna
human
listen to
being.
it.
Yeah, Absolutely, and there are a whole bunch of artists that have been on the podcast, and it's been a very
Yeah,
very cool experience for me. Again, reconnecting with music for me in a way,
yeah.
because I'm also trying to start making music with my computer. So I'm also kind of,
Mm,
that's why I'm
cool.
asking a lot of questions to,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
all
yeah.
the gear that you use, and how did you find out how to use Ableton Live and stuff.
But you know what? If you're
Uh,
starting music on your laptop,
yeah,
there's the little something I
actually,
use
on
when
my
I
phone, I
travel.
want to do everything on my phone.
Oh,
I'm trying
okay,
to do
okay,
that.
then I'm not your best
But
advisor,
my computer
because
also,
if
yes, sure.
yeah, if it was the computer, I would say a really good tool that I use when I travel on the train, or if like I like go somewhere,
Hmm.
is the Akai. Oh shit, I forget the exact
I
name.
have a MIDI
It's like
keyboard
a
from Ikea.
yeah that has pads
Yeah, yeah, I
and
have one
keys.
of those. Yes.
Okay, because that's like the base,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
then you can get all kinds of dope plugins and you can create things. For me, it
Sure.
was like, what, I can go out into nature and sit
Yeah.
basically. I mean, that's what you're doing, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm also trying to
Mm.
to sample a lot of sounds here from the nature, because
Ah,
it's. I mean, I just
wow.
have to go out, open my door, and I will hear beautiful sounds also every night. It's really cool.
Wow, I can
Yeah.
imagine.
So it's
Where, well, like how does, where are you right now? How does it look? Where?
Yeah, well, that's a question I get asked a lot lately on the
Yeah,
podcast, and I
yeah.
think I've been talking too much about it also. But it's a city, it's a small town in the Amazon rainforest. But I live in the countryside. I have a little
Okay.
house, really
Yeah,
fairy tale kind of house,
nice.
surrounded by nature. It's
Time
like
will
an
tell.
oasis. So when you come to my place, you definitely think, "Oh my gosh,
Nice.
this guy lives in the jungle." The first question people ask is, "Do you have internet here?" And I said that I do. I have a podcasting studio. So
Ah, amazing.
it's a beautiful place, and you have rivers and
Yeah,
waterfalls all over the place. So it's
yeah,
it's pretty.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I have always that
yeah.
jungle feeling.
That's great.
Yeah. So you get to see tons of animals, plants, biodiversity.
Wow.
Lately,
Yeah,
I've been taking pictures, of
amazing.
like plants and stuff, and it's really fun. I really enjoy doing
Yeah,
that. So it's a great place,
yeah.
for biologists and nature people, I
I can
guess.
imagine. I
Yeah.
totally can
So
imagine.
yeah, sure. It's
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, here I'm just happy that because on one side of the flat where I live is there's like a little piece of grass
Yeah.
with some big trees.
Yeah. Sure.
And when I lie in my bed, it's like I can look
Yeah.
outside the window and I can see this morning there was like a bird that I never saw before, this
Yeah.
type of bird.
Yeah. You also
And it
have
was sitting.
beautiful landscapes, right, in Denmark,
Yeah,
Scandinavia.
but I mean, I'm in the middle of Copenhagen,
Hmm.
but there is like a little nature spot, so I feel I can, for example, now when it's spring, just to be able to see the leaves, like how it changes every day,
Yeah.
when it's like they pop and it's like, okay, everything is green now. I love this. Even though I'm in the city, I can kind of follow this.
Nice. But you have also
Yeah.
traveled quite a bit, right? You
Yeah, I
told me.
mean, yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
Hmm.
I mean, both as a child and when I was like a young
Hmm.
woman, with like I was singing in choirs, and we would travel like all over the world. Like I remember one year we were in 17 countries, just singing.
17. Wow.
Yeah,
In
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 a
Europe, I
year it
guess,
was
right?
crazy. I know, like everywhere. We
Everywhere.
went to
Okay.
China
Oh,
twice,
okay. Wow.
and
Okay.
yeah, we really.
Have you
But
have you been
then
to South America too? Or
never. That's like the one place I haven't been, and I would love to go.
Africa?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I lived 5 months in West Africa,
Oh,
in Burkina
nice.
Faso,
Oh, okay,
when I
nice.
was like 19, 20 maybe,
Hmm.
because I wanted to learn to play djembe. I was like, okay, I
Oh,
need
the
to improve
djembe.
my
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to kind of improve my rhythm skills, and I thought, okay, I can either apply to a school in Denmark or I can go to West Africa, which I think is a much great idea. So
Hmm.
I went, and I was like sitting under a mango tree for 5 hours every day, just playing, and it was amazing. I mean,
Cool.
it was an amazing time.
Yeah.
It was really, and I still have friends. Like I lived with my djembe teacher, and made a lot of friends because I was traveling alone.
Hmm.
So it's like it's. I mean, when you're alone and you're 20 years old and you just want to meet people, it's like people are very generous. Also in Burkina,
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
are very curious, and it was a crazy experience, you know.
Nice. I can't.
And then later, I mean, I moved to Paris,
Yeah.
and that
How long
was
did you live there?
in Paris.
Yeah.
So that was like first it was 4 months, and then back to Denmark, and then back for a year, and it's been like a lot of back and forth.
Okay.
But
Between Paris and
it
Denmark.
was, yeah,
Hmm.
but
And why
because of the
Paris?
music.
Yeah, because was
Well,
it
it
because
was
of?
so random. It was so random. It was like talking about feeling old, you know. I put some music on MySpace.
Okay.
And you remember
Yeah,
MySpace?
sure. Yeah, yeah. We had a
Okay,
MySpace
okay.
page. Yeah,
Okay, dope. So I put some music, like little skits on MySpace, and some people in Canada wrote me that, okay, we love what you do. Do you want to be on our album?
yeah. Okay,
And I
cool.
was like, okay, we did some songs. And they asked me to come to Switzerland first to play with them for a gig, and then to play in Paris as the support for a French artist called Wax Taylor.
Uh-huh.
And so we did that, and it was like a big show in Paris. It was at l'Olympia, which is like the biggest venue in Paris.
Nice.
And so that was a crazy experience. But then a guy who was playing with Wax Taylor, an MC, he was like, yo, we got to do something. We got to work together
Hmm.
after he heard the sound check. And I was like, yeah, okay. You know, you're high, you're talking. I don't know if it's going to happen, but let's see, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I was high as well, so no judgment. But anyway, so then he started sending music, and I did like an album with him and some French beat makers, and they invited me to Paris to play. And then some other French people kind of heard that, and they wanted me on their album. And I met some amazing people, and I met an amazing singer
Hmm.
called Jessica Fitoussi, who
Nice.
I connected so well with. She was like my sister, you know, from
Cool.
just different the country.
Hmm.
But it was like we met, and at some point I was like, okay, so all of my music is like in Paris and in
Hmm.
France. So
Hmm.
why am I in Copenhagen, you know?
Yeah.
And basically it was just this one mail on MySpace that had me move to Paris and live some of the craziest years, you know, and have some amazing experience. You know, it's like incredible talking about the internet,
Yeah.
how it
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
change your
Cool.
whole.
Paris. It's also a beautiful city. I
Yeah,
know there are people that don't like it too much. I've been
I mean, it's intense and it's all
couple.
kinds of things, but
Yeah.
for me it's like the way I got to know Paris was beautiful because I
Yeah.
just moved there, and I knew like a lot of people in the underground beat scene, and I
Yo.
could just like go from studio to studio and jam and sing, and it was really like magical,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
That's exactly what it is. Not like to get inside the subcultures and underground
Exactly.
stories and clubs and the scene, the whole scene,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's amazing. It's like I guess like Berlin.
Yeah.
It's also those
Yeah.
cities where
Yeah.
you
Where did you live in
I
Germany?
lived in a small city. It was called Bielefeld, but I also lived
Okay.
in Hamburg for a while,
Yeah.
and I
Nice.
spent a couple of months in Berlin too,
Yeah.
also
That's
exploring
such
the
a nice
whole
city.
musical scene.
Yeah. So much good music in Berlin.
Absolutely, there is a lot of
Yeah.
great artists.
Yeah. Really.
Astrid, it was really nice talking to you.
Yeah.
It's
Likewise. Time is really
nice to
flying.
meet you. Yeah, sure. We're
Yeah.
almost an hour on the air. So
Wow.
where can
Crazy.
people get your music? Where can we find you on the web?
Um, so Bandcamp is, like you said, always a good place
Yeah,
because they're so nice to the
sure.
artists as well.
Hmm.
So on Astrid Engberg on Bandcamp, or they can like find me on Facebook or Instagram,
Instagram.
go to Spotify or whatever. And yeah, just there's still a little bit of vinyl left,
Hmm.
or they can just stream or whatever they
Hmm.
feel. And if they have no money, they can send me an email and we'll figure that out.
Hmm.
They can have a free stream maybe.
Nice.
But for me, it's so nice to see how the music travels.
Yeah,
That I'm
cool.
sitting here in Nørrebro, Copenhagen, talking to you in Ecuador.
I do have another question on your YouTube channel. There is this visual EP called, is it called
Oh yeah,
Iguri? Or how do you
yeah,
how this
Iguri.
Iguri? What exactly is
Yeah,
that? It's like a side project or?
yeah. That is. It's like a little side project I
Oh
did
yeah,
in 3 days. The music, and it's maybe a little bit more electronic,
yeah. I
and
enjoy it. It's cool.
Ah, cool. There's an amazing dancer called Marie Kay
Uh-huh.
who's dancing in
The
this
video is really
video,
cool.
and
You know, I love visuals, so
yeah,
it's cool.
yeah, that's a woman called Slur.
Ah,
She's really, we had her for a show also, and she's like amazing. She brings all these organic things like leaves
uh-huh.
and stuff, and she's like creating the visuals organically live, and it's like a really beautiful experience. I feel she's very creative and talented. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm happy you enjoy that.
Nice. So where can we hear your next mix or remix, or do you have maybe
Mm,
a show? Are you going to stream maybe live
um,
sometime soon?
I don't know if we're gonna stream like the next shows. I hope we can play for real audiences, but
Yeah.
I know that on April 28th.
Hmm.
So I don't know. We have a live stream coming out that we did with a venue called Vega in Copenhagen,
Hmm.
which was a really nice experience, and I think I'm definitely gonna like link to it on my Instagram or whatever.
Nice.
And yeah, then next month another show on Bellamy, and I don't know. I'll try to keep things up to
Yeah.
date on
Keep
Facebook
us
and
posted.
Instagram.
So everybody
Yeah,
go and
definitely,
follow uh,
definitely.
Astrid on socials.
And
Uh,
Ivancast
yeah, for sure. Thank you. Is
podcast.
there
Yeah.
anything else you want the world to know about you?
Um. No, I just want the world to know that I hope that we will all succeed in staying soft
Yeah.
and light
Yeah.
and
Sure.
loving. And if
Absolutely.
there's one thing I learned in my life where I've experienced a lot of things, it is that no matter what I do, I really want to keep on
Yeah,
staying
yeah,
soft.
yeah. That's really nice, and I really want to say that every time that I meet people like you know, I definitely restore my faith in humanity, you know, and I love that.
Wow.
It's really wonderful. So thank you very much
Wow.
for being on the show,
Thank you
Astrid.
so
It
much.
was nice to meet you,
It was
and
so nice talking to you.
absolutely, it was very nice. And maybe we can listen to one of your songs now. We can end
Let's
the
do it.
show. Uh,
Mhm.
Daylight. Shall we listen to Daylight?
Let's go.
Let's do it. All right. Astrid Engberg, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Come walk into the, come take my hand into the daylight, into the daylight. Take my hand into the daylight, daylight, daylight. Come walk into the, come take my hand into the daylight. Hold my hand, come and walk with me. Feel the sun soak it in. Take my hand as we walk into the daylight. Hold my hand, come and walk with me. Feel the sun soak it in. Take my hand as we walk into the daylight. To the daylight.